B March Boxing back at it, man. I tried to do this one time, man, but the joint cut off on me, man. Um, Taking you back, man. This is fights we didn't get to see series. You thought I forgot, man. You must have thought I forgot. I haven't done one of these in a long time. I don't know what's up with this joint. Anyways, I haven't done one of these in a while, you know what I mean? I think the last one I did was like in November of 2017. But like I said, man, go check out my playlist over here on YouTube. This is one of my favorite, I love talking old school boxing, you know what I mean? And this is one of my favorite pastimes doing here on YouTube when I do these videos. My fights we didn't get to see series. Go ahead, check out the playlist on YouTube. I think I got over 20 fights we didn't get to see. Classic matchups of classic fighters or fights we didn't get to see in boxing history, you know? But yeah, man, let's get into it, man. This is a fight that should have happened anytime after 1982. You know what I mean? Actually, could have even happened. Actually, no, let me scratch that. You know what I mean? Let me say anytime between 1980 and 1982. You check it. Eusebio Pedraza, the WBA champion. You see him right there. Eusebio Pedraza, the WBA champion versus from Panama versus Salvador Sanchez, a man from Mexico, you know what I mean? Two of the greatest featherweights I've ever seen in my lifetime, you know what I mean? You know, these guys, man, you can't even compare to these modern day featherweights, fellas like Leo Santa Cruz, Abner Mares, even my guy Gary Russell from the D.C., Maryland area. You can't compare these guys with these fighters of yesteryear, man. These guys were talented. These guys fought everybody. They didn't take no shorts. They didn't hold back no punches. And they were just remarkable to go watch, you know what I mean? I wasn't alive during their time, you know what I mean? Especially, Salvador Sanchez, you know what I mean? When these guys were in their prime. But, hey, man, that's the beauty of today, technology. We have YouTube. We can go back and look at these great fights, you know? And hold tight. Let me send these links to social media one time. Hold tight. Give me 1 sec, y'all. All right. 1 sec. Alrighty, man. You check it, like I said, man. These guys were great fighters in their prime, you know what I mean? Eusebio Pedroza, two of the better fighters, man. These guys were from Latin America, you know what I mean? To be specific, Central America. Eusebio Pedroza, man, was from Panama. Great fighter. And the man, Salvador Sanchez, was from Mexico, and the Salvador Sanchez was the WBC and the Lineal featherweight champion of the world. And the other guy, Eusebio Pedroza, was the WBA champ. So both of these guys held the crown, you know what I mean, half of the crown at featherweight. So it was only right that they should have met. They should have fought each other, you know what I mean, and got it on so we could be talking about what an illustrious fighter would have been in history. And believe you me, man, I think this fight right here, man, between the styles, you know what I mean, the clashes of styles, would have made for a beautiful fight, man. Believe you me. All right, so let's get into it, man. Now, you see the man, Salvador Sanchez, man, was a very good fighter, The man became a champion when he beat Danny Little Red Lopez, you know what I mean? Danny Little Red Lopez was the champion, He was a fan favorite as far as TV fanfare. He was a guy who was always on TV. The fans loved to see him fight. He was always in action-packed fights, fights with fellas like Bobby Chacon and them, So, the man, Little Red Lopez, he got beat by this guy right here, man, you know what I'm saying? Salvador Sanchez, and Eusebio Pedroza became a WBO champion when he beat Cecilio Lastra, a guy from Spain, you know what I mean? If I'm not mistaken, I even think this guy, Eusebio Pedroza, went out to Spain to grab that title. I think he stopped him, I think it was in the late championship rounds, probably in the 13th round, Okay, so like I said, man, two of the best fighters at the featherweight division, and they both held the crown at 126, and they should have fought. You know what I mean? It would have been something beautiful to see. But let's get into it. You know what I mean? The man, Eusebio Pedroza, was a tall featherweight. You know what I mean? He almost towered over every featherweight he fought. You check it, and The guy was a guy who he was a beautiful fighter off the back foot. You know what I mean? That was his specialty. His reflexes, man, his reflexes reminded me of fellas like Pernell Whitaker. You know what I mean? The man had a tight defense. You check it, very tight defense. He had taken a couple losses before he became a featherweight champion. Most notably, he had lost to bantamweight champion Alfonso Zamora. You know what I mean? I think, yeah, definitely got knocked out in the second round. You know what I mean? But the guy, Eusebio Pedraza, you check it. He was one of the best fighters, man, of his era. You know what I mean? The man was you know, 19 title defenses. 19 title defenses for the man, Eusebio Pedraza, which is still to this day a world record at featherweight. Nobody has had more title defenses than the man, Eusebio Pedraza. You know what I mean? Actually, here goes a highlight of Danny Little Red Lopez getting his ass handed to him by the man, Salvador Sanchez, man. He beat him to a pulp, you know what I mean? Twice, you know what I'm saying? He had fought him twice. The man, Salvador Sanchez, had beat fellas like Wilfredo Gomez. Beautiful fight, man. Like I said, he handed him his ass too. He beat the hell out of him. You know what I mean? Punished him. That's assault what he did to Wilfredo Gomez. A great fighter, one of the best knockout punchers you'll see in boxing. You know what I mean? You check it. Who else did he beat? He beat fellas like Juan Laporte. You check it. Azuma Nelson. You know what I mean? In a great fight. You know what I mean? Azuma Nelson's introduction into world-class boxing was when he fought the man Salvador Sanchez. Unfortunately, that was also Salvador Sanchez's last fight of his career. You know what I mean? He never fought after that fight with Salvador Sanchez. I'm sorry, with Azuma Nelson. And fellas like what's his name? He beat Eusebio Pedraza, man. He beat fellas like Rocky Lockridge twice. He beat one of the greatest, if not the greatest, bantamweight of all time, Ruben Olivares. You know what I mean? Did he beat Juan Laporte? I think he also got Juan Laporte on his resume. Don't quote me on that, but I think he do. You know what I mean? He beat fellas like Bernard Taylor, you know what I mean? Another good fighter of his era. So the man, Eusebio Pedraza, man, 19 title defenses, and he did it all over the world. The man was a world traveler. You check it, was in Norway. The man even fought in places like Papua New Guinea, you know what I mean? Title defenses also in Europe, you know what I'm saying, North America, Panama. The man went all over the world to defend his title, and that's what you call really a world champion, going any and everywhere to defend his world title, you know what I mean? So, these two guys were formidable opponents, should have fought, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, we didn't get to see they fight, but, I'm going to tell it like this before I get down to my breakdown and prediction. The man, Salvador Sanchez, rest his soul, man. He passed away after he fought the man, Azuma Nelson, in a great fight up in Madison Square Garden, you know what I mean? Man, what a fight, man, you know what I mean? Both guys showed tenacity and grit, you know what I mean? But the man, Salvador Sanchez, you know what I'm saying? He never got to fight after that because shortly after that fight, maybe a couple months after, you know what I'm saying, the man passed away, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, the man passed away in a motor vehicle accident in his Porsche. The man was probably speeding, flying on them highways over there in Mexico, and he got into a motor vehicle accident, you know what I mean? And that's the reason, Salvador Sanchez is held in high lore and as far as could have been and was showing promise that he was going to be the greatest featherweight of all time, you know what I mean? You know how many fights that was on the horizon after that Azuma Nelson fight, you know what I mean? Man, eventually I'm sure we would have probably seen a fight between maybe an Azuma Nelson rematch versus Salvador Sanchez, maybe a fight with Alexis Arguello, you know what I mean? That fight was in negotiations, you know what I mean? But negotiations broke down because, the man, what's his name? Alexis Arguello elected to move up in weight, you know what I mean? Fights with all Mexican showdown, which I'm sure was destined to happen with Julio Cesar Chavez, you know what I mean? So there was a lot of great fights. Oh my gosh, what about if he moved up to 130? There was fellas like Rocky Lockridge there. There was fellas like Mayweather Jr. I'm sorry, Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather's what's his name? Roger Mayweather. You know what I mean? And also there was fights with fellas like what's his name? Um, what's his name, man? Um, a fight with my Puerto Rican guy, man. What's his name, man? Hector Macho Camacho. Those fights were inevitable, believe you me. You know what I mean? So let's get into this breakdown and prediction, you know. As far as height, like I said, man, the guy was towering. Eusebio Pedraza would tower over his opponents, you know what I mean? He was definitely the taller fighter more than everybody. The guy could fight beautifully off the back foot, you know what I'm saying? Throwing punches and bunches, throwing punches to the body, you know what I mean? And, you know, he had power. He wasn't quite the knockout artist, in my opinion, like Salvador Sanchez. I think Salvador Sanchez had one-punch knockout power, you know what I mean? And also punches, combination punches, you know, accumulation punches that could drop an opponent and eventually knock him out, you know what I mean? But the man Eusebio Pedraza was more of an outside fighter, a guy who keeps his distance, you know what I'm saying? A guy who fights on the back foot, you know what I mean? Beautiful reflexes. The guy, as far as defense, Salvador Sanchez had good defense too, you know what I mean? Very good defense, you know, but his defense was maybe keep the high guard up and throw that left hook in the process, you know what I mean? Or also, you know, bob and weave, you know what I mean? Move his head, you know what I mean? Head movement. You check it as opposed to the man, Eusebio Pedraza, who had that waist movement, upper body movement, not just head movement. You know what I mean? He had that kind of defense like another great from Panama at bantamweight, Hilario Zapata. You know what I mean? Very good fighter at bantamweight and even at super flyweight, Hilario Zapata. You check it, these guys from Panama, man, these guys had skills, you know what I mean? Vicious skills, you know? Fellas like Duran had that kind of defense too, which is underrated. More the head movement, upper body movement. You know what I mean? Look what the man Salvador Sanchez is doing to Wilfredo Gomez. You know what I mean? Wilfredo Gomez did move up in weight from 122 to 126, but man, he picked the wrong one to fight, man. I'm trying to tell you. So as far as matchups, you know, who had the faster feet? I think the man, Eusebio Pedraza did, you know what I mean? Definitely had the faster feet, faster hand speed. I think the man, when it comes to punches and bunches, I think Salvador Sanchez had that, he definitely had the faster hand speed when it came to combination punches in order to get rid of an opponent. You know who reminds me of Salvador Sanchez right now? And some of y'all might not even be hip to this because you probably don't know much about Salvador Sanchez. Big ups to all my people out there who know about these old school boxers, because I know a lot of y'all do listen to my channel, you know what I mean? But some of y'all, man, you might not know that the man Errol Spence actually reminds me of a Salvador Sanchez, especially when he has your opponent hurt, you know what I mean? When he's ready to go in for the kill, the combination punches and just going in for the kill. You check it. That's a character trait that I think Errol Spence has, like Salvador Sanchez, you know what I mean? And, you know, Salvador Sanchez was a very good fighter, you know. I'm trying to tell you, man, when I watch back his fights, I just be like, damn, man, I wish my man ain't passed away so we could see how great he could have been, you know what I mean? Both guys, mind you, are in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? In Canastota, New York. You check it. But Eusebio Pedraza, you know, I think the man would be on the back foot a lot because the pressure fighter would, by all means, it would be the man Salvador Sanchez. The man Salvador Sanchez doesn't go backwards for nobody like the man Eusebio Pedraza does. And I think the man Salvador Sanchez will be stepping on the gas, will be putting the pressure on the man, you know what I mean? And you know, Eusebio Pedraza, how long would he be able to withstand the pressure from Salvador Sanchez? Not only the pressure, but could he do that for 15 rounds, evading the man and trying to throw punches going backwards? That's a tall task and a long order for the man Eusebio Pedraza, you know what I mean? Eusebio Pedraza also, in my opinion, wasn't an overall complete fighter like the man Salvador Sanchez. You know, Eusebio Pedraza's strengths were punches in bunches, the body shots, very good body shot puncher like Hilario Zapata, you know, even Roberto Duran. It must be something taught in the Panamanian School of Boxing. You know, he was a very good body puncher, you know what I mean? But he was a guy who stayed on the outside. He wasn't that good as far as fighting on the inside. This is a classic fight right here between Salvador Sanchez and the Zuma Nelson. You know, very good fight, very very good fight. So in my opinion, that was where the man Salvador Sanchez would be at his best, getting on the inside. You know what I mean? Using his jab to get on the inside, and eventually, I think he'd put Eusebio Pedraza on the canvas not once, if he not twice, probably a couple, maybe three times. You know what I mean? That left hook of the Salvador Sanchez when he uses his jab, and now he's starting to throw them combinations was something deadly, something mean. You know what I mean? And I think the man Salvador Sanchez, the left hook would probably be what would be the end. Like how he put the man Azuma Nelson down, you know what I mean? Every time the man Azuma Nelson went down to the canvas, it was via that left hook that of Salvador Sanchez. You check it. So, you know, that's a great fight. I think the man Salvador Sanchez, you know, man, I think the man would probably win this fight via KO or stoppage in the championship rounds, you know what I mean? Probably in the 13th, 14th, or 15th round, you know what I mean? Eusebio Pedraza was a good fighter, you know what I mean? Who usually can go the distance. That was his MO, you know what I mean? But Salvador Sanchez was a guy who could go the distance. But not only that, he's icing opponents out in the championship rounds. He gets stronger and tougher in the championship rounds. He's taking no shorts and he's going in for the kill. You check it. You see the reflexes from the man Eusebio Pedraza, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Vicious uppercuts. You know, he was a guy who throws them body shots to keep opponents off of him. But I think Salvador Sanchez is a guy who hits harder, you know what I mean? He's more of a knockout puncher, you know what I mean? And the man's Eusebio Pedraza, I just think he would have met his match. And not to mention, you know, 19 title defenses. Let's say they fought after 1982 if the man didn't pass away, you know. He was a little older than the man Salvador Sanchez too, you know what I mean, by 3 years. Not much of a difference, you know, but I just think the younger, fresher dude, you know what I mean, a guy who had only one loss in his career, never been knocked out, Salvador Sanchez, unlike the man Eusebio Pedraza, who had been knocked out twice, you know what I mean. I think he would have met his match fighting the man Salvador Sanchez, you know what I mean? And in my opinion, a guy like Salvador Sanchez wouldn't even lose to a guy like Barry McGuigan, you know what I mean? Barry McGuigan, that was a great accomplishment what he did, beating this guy in his 20th title defense, Eusebio Pedraza. But I just think as far as the footwork and like I said, the Eusebio Pedraza's footwork was better, but the pressure, could he withstand the pressure from Salvador Sanchez, who knows how to finish opponents, you know what I mean? He had a high KO ratio. I just think ultimately he would have got the better of the man Eusebio Pedraza, you know what I'm saying? So I think Eusebio Pedraza will probably start off, you know, the first 8 rounds, you know what I mean, would be back and forth. I'd probably say it'd be 4 rounds apiece, you know what I'm saying? But slowly and surely, the man Salvador Sanchez will be closing the distance, pressure the man Eusebio Pedraza, you know what I mean? And just unleash haymakers, bombs, that left hook. And the left hook will put him on the canvas at least 2-3 times, believe you me. That's my video, man. B-Marsh Boxing. I got the man Salvador Sanchez. I got the man Salvador Sanchez winning via KO, you know what I'm saying? Probably stoppage in the later rounds, you know what I mean? Eusebio Pedraza is a good fighter, but I think he would have met one of the best featherweights of his time and probably could have been one of the best featherweights ever, you know what I mean? But be talking about him up there with fellas like, you know, Sandy Sadler, you know what I mean? Joe Gans, you check it, just great featherweights, you know what I mean? And Salvador Sanchez was that dude, believe you me. If you don't know about him, go check him out. Go watch his fights on YouTube. All right, B-Marsh Boxing. I got a 14th round stoppage or KO for the Mexican fighter, Salvador Sanchez. Leave your thoughts and comments and let me know what y'all think about this video. And let me know your prediction, actually, who would win this Fights We Didn't Get to See series. B-Marsh Boxing, I'm gone. Peace.